everybody, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kat, and if you're not, welcome back. Today I just wanted to show you guys some tips and tricks on how to paint a human eye. Essentially, I'm going to be painting a human eye and just talking about things that you should do to make it look realistic. Welcome to the voiceover. So when I'm doing small studies like this, it makes more sense instead of wasting a big canvas, pre-made especially. So what I do is I use scraps of fabric canvas. That way I can make them as big or small as I want to. So they work especially good for facial features. And if you really like it, you can always stretch a canvas after you've painted on it. So to start, you just want to layer it with gesso, which is essentially a primer for the surface you'll be working on. And I kind of show it here where I kind of turn over the piece of fabric. It will leak through a bit, but once the gesso is on it, it should be less absorbent, so the paint shouldn't get to the other side, the back side. But I suggest laying something down if you don't want to get your surface painted. I tend to always mix colors out of the tube. I don't really use any colors straight out of the tube. So I like to line up my paints on the outside edge and then mix closer to me. If I'm doing a large scale painting, I use my palette knife and I make a lot of one color, but since I am just using a small piece of fabric to paint on, I am only working in small batches with a brush. But if you're mixing a large amount of paint, use a palette knife. It will be a lot more helpful. You'll have the same tones throughout the entire piece instead of having to remix different tones. The reference picture that I'm going off of was very lit up, so it was very bright. There was hardly any shadow on the girl's eye that I took a picture of. So that's going to be reflected in the light skin tone that I'm using and how bright the eye looks. But do not let that mislead you into thinking that an eyeball is actually pure white. Even if there is a reflection off of it, it's not going to be pure white. Eyes tend to have like a bluish or greenish tint to the actual white part of the eye, sometimes even red depending on if the eye is irritated or anything like that. The only pure white you should have in your painting of an eye is anything that is reflecting off of a liquidy surface. So if there is a light reflecting off of the eyeball, that would be more of a pure white than the white of the eye itself. Another tip is not to straight up line anything, so don't just draw a black line if there's a shadow. You can, however, draw a line of some sort, usually a dark skin tone color, so something that is similar to the skin tone but a lot richer, and you can paint that on as a line and then blend it out with the brush. If you're working with acrylics, it is a little bit more difficult to blend once you have dry paint, so you'll just have to add back more of that lighter skin tone just to blend that in together nicely. When creating the iris and the pupil, you want to keep in mind that it's a lot smaller than a lot of people think. One of the mistakes when you're painting a realistic eye is making the iris and the pupil too large. In regards to an actual eyeball size, which is almost the size of your fist, the pupil and the iris only takes up a small fraction of that surface area, so you need to remember that when you're painting this, and that's why a reference photo is very important. So you can see in comparison to the length of the eye, the width of the eye, from what you see on the outside and the eyelids to the size of the iris. And when I start painting the iris, I like to find a neutral tone within the different colors of the eye. In this case, in my reference photo, the girl has blue, just flecks, blue flecks, green flecks, and a lot of brown. So I want to start with the green because you can kind of see it in the highlights a little bit more, the green instead of the brown. So I'm going to start with a green and go over that with a brown. You also want to always take into account the attributes of the eye that you're painting. So if you're painting from your memory or just you're creating an eye, that's different. You can make your own attributes, but if you're looking at a photograph of someone's eye, pay attention to whether it droops in the corner or whether it's upturned in the corner and the different ways an eye can be shaped. This girl has a very round eye that's a little bit drooped in the bottom, but that helps us to be able to make it look more realistic. Especially if you're painting someone's eye for a present or paid work. When painting an iris, you want to make sure that there's multiple layers so that see all of the colors that show through in the eye, because if you look closely at anyone's eye, you can see there are many different colors making up their eye color that you see from far away. So someone with green eyes might also have flecks of blue, flecks of brown that make it appear solid green from far away. Or someone with brown eyes might have flecks of gold and red. Someone with blue eyes might have gray in their eyes. Just keep that in account when you are painting an eye. Again, always reference a photo. And obviously when you're making eyelashes and stuff like that, those are actual lines. So you do obviously want to create a bold line when doing an eyelash. And dependent on whether they're natural lashes or there's mascara on them, you might want to soften them if they're just natural, no makeup or anything on them. But here they were a little bit darker in the photo, so I'm going in with a very, very dark brown. There was a lot of contrast in the original picture that I'm using as a reference. So between the skin tones and the light colors, the eyelashes do stand out a lot, but that's what they look like in the photo. So if you are following a picture, that makes it a lot easier to make it as realistic as possible. Also, when painting eyelashes, especially the top lashes, you want to remember that they tend to come out straight at you unless they've been curled or unless someone has really curly lashes. So they don't look as long in paintings or pictures as they might in real life, seeing it from different angles. So if you take a picture of someone's eyeballs straight on, then their eyelashes are not going to be captured quite as much as you taking a picture from the side or from below. So essentially you don't want to create lashes that go all the way up to the brow bone, because that's just not realistic unless someone has fake lashes or extremely long lashes, in which case I'm jealous. Once again, following a reference photo is extremely helpful in this type of case. I didn't go into as much detail with the eyebrow because that's not what I'm focusing on in this video. So I just kind of put hairs together to create a brow just so it looks like a complete painting of an eye. I'm not by any means saying that like I'm the best at painting eyes because I know that there is room for improvement, but the thing about art is you can always improve your craft. No matter what it is, you can work to make yourself better. Art is not only talent, but it is hard work as well. So even if you have no talent, you can become an artist if you actually want to learn, put in the time, and practice. Practice is the only way to become good at something. Because even if you're talented, you can't be at the top of the game forever, you know? You have to always be innovating and making new things to become better. That's all I can say. I hope that all of you have been having a great summer. I'm personally ready for fall, but it's just my opinion. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like the video and also comment down below. Let me know if you want to see something, if you need tips on how to paint certain things, or you know, any sort of art form, so I can try to give tips and tricks about those things. Also, please subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want to see more videos like this or other videos like DIY videos. Do it meow. Oh no.